is here for you.
Hi, my dear Astro family. So in this video, we are going to be looking at the full moon that takes place on 20 degrees Sagittarius. And this is a very interesting full moon. It features a Saturn-Jupiter square. It squares the nodal axis as well. We're going to be talking about two asteroids in this video. One is going to be Demeter, the other one is going to be Asclepius. So we've got a lot to cover. And then I'm going to be giving you a short description at the end, what it might mean for your rising sign. Let's get going and why this is super important. So, the full moon is happening on 20 degree of Sagittarius, depending on where you are, but potentially it is going to be 11th or the 12th of June. Now, full moons are always moments of a culmination or something gets illuminated. We become aware of something. Actually, let me share the screen so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. Maybe that's easier, right? So let me just share the screen. And then let me just get there. I'm not going to be putting up the exact charts, but let me just make it as close as possible so that we see what is going on. Here you go. So here is the 20 degree. Okay, so something gets culminated here. Something gets highlighted here. Something we become aware or in a way clear about. And Sagittarius, it's about the truth, it's expansion, freedom, higher knowledge, or it can even indicate something to do with travels, visa matters, international matters. And it Sagittarius also connects to your belief system, foreign cultures, educations, long journeys, your personal philosophy. But also it is not just like physical travel, but it can represent something to do with kind of like dreams, because that's a type of travel as well. So those themes are going to be somehow emphasized here. Now look at the ruler of the moon, which is Jupiter. Look at the ruler of the sun, ruler of the sun, which is Mercury. They are actually having a conjunction in the sign of Cancer, and Jupiter is on the world axis. The world axis is 0 degree Aries, 0 degree Capricorn, 0 degree Libra, 0 degree Cancer. So what it means is pretty much that it's super important. So of course, the moon's ruler and sun's ruler together indicates a link between our emotional, the instinctual self, and the conscious mind. It's kind of like what we feel and what we say are somehow all the same. So there is somehow the truth here. We are looking for the truth, and it really looks like that we can find the truth. But of course, it's the integration between the mind and the truth, or the emotional needs, the instinctual needs, and the conscious mind. They all get together. However, we should remember also that Jupiter and Mercury are natural enemies. So even it can indicate confrontations as well. Now, this conjunction takes place in the sign of Cancer. And Cancer is about home, family, roots, security, emotional well-being. A conjunction here means that the energies of Jupiter and Mercury are merging and even amplified with this sensitive, nurturing side. So now the world axis, anytime when there is a planet there, basically it's something publicly gets announced. It affects everyone on a global level. Of course, 0 degree Cancer is the summer solstice point. So just think about the longest day. It could actually indicate something like which is going to be obviously the longest day of the year. We are in the middle of the summer, so it could be hot. Sometimes it's kind of like scorching something. So it is affecting home countries, home securities, the foundation of countries, or the mood of the general public. Now, a full moon is somehow a news, a major news or an event. And that event is somehow connected to the borders, housing, real estate, the national identity, the protection of countries, and so forth. So this could indicate that travels are in certain places of the world are going to get restricted, not being able to receive visa and so forth. I can definitely imagine that. This is also highlighted by the way the Jupiter and Saturn square. So look at how tight that is. They are within 1 degree. My recommendation is look at the original conjunction between them two, which happened in 2020 December on 0 degree of Aquarius. And that is also called as the Great Conjunction. And that marks the beginning of a new 20-year cycle. Obviously, it happened in an air sign, Aquarius. So that was setting up the stage, for example, for technological advancements, social reforms, new ideologies, new political ideologies, and the shift in the collective consciousness. Now we got to the square. This is an opening square because Jupiter is the faster moving planet and it's ahead of Saturn. So we've got these two kind of like giants creating a tension, a critical point, a need in a way to make certain type of developments connected to the Aquarius cusp of our chart. So, of course, Jupiter would like to expand. Jupiter would like to, let's say, create a lot of these technological pieces. It is creating a lot of new ideologies. But Saturn says the individual is not ready for that. Of course, Jupiter is super optimistic. Saturn is more about pessimism. So it looks like that we start these technological advancements, for example, and many are super excited about it because they have got the faith that this is good for humanity and so forth. And a lot feels really restricted by it. What if I'm going to lose the job? Or what if it's going to replace me? Or it's a burden on the self. And we can be even afraid of kind of like losing individuality, our individual touch, or, being able to make connections with others. Also, on one hand, Jupiter is freedom, Saturn is the limitation. So it's kind of like if the borders are going to be messed up a little bit or visa matters, some will be happy and some will hate it. Excuse me. So now it really looks like, and I don't want to talk about 2020. I know it was COVID. Do I think that COVID is coming back? I'm not gonna say anything really much on that. I'm just gonna give you the astrological themes here. Okay. Now, but events went down in 2020 or slash 2021. Now it's time to make developments. We planted the seeds in the Aquarius part of our chart. For example, it happened in my 12th house, and this is when I started doing my body transformation. Now, that is not working anymore. Somehow we're gonna have to be having a new plan. Remember, we had two squares between Saturn and Jupiter already, but those were mutable squares. It happened in Gemini and Pisces. But now they shifted sign, and both of them are sitting on the world axis. So this is talking to us about having to shift, having to move on as well. So we are experiencing this critical phase where the vision and the plans formed in 2020 are being tested and having to refine them. There are certain type of limitations within this new system. We're gonna have to fix it. We're gonna have to realize that there are limitations there. We're gonna have to reevaluate our goals. And we have to be facing and paying the price or the consequences of what we started around that time. Because maybe at first we didn't do it right. So this full moon is culminating what went wrong in 2020. And it brings the truth to light. We gain clarity over this. And I think because Mercury and Jupiter are in the sign of Cancer, it's somehow emotional communication. It's it's something to do with the integration of our beliefs with our thinking, the way we communicate. It really feels like there are going to be lies spread, by the way, or there's going to be kind of like fabricated evidence and so forth about this truth, just because Mercury is there, and then often that's about tricks. And also, I mean, the Jupiter and Saturn square really indicates challenges, but it wants us to grow up. So now, let's even talk about this more because I've got a lot to share here. So, as mentioned earlier, the initial seeds are in Aquarius. So, obviously, Aquarius is connected to innovation, it's about vision. Yes, scientific breakthroughs, but unconventional ideas as well. Or Aquarius represented social reform. It's collective consciousness. It's humanitarian matters. It's social justice. It's about coming together, a group identity, building a community. But then Saturn is in the sign of Aries, who says, where is my identity? And Jupiter in Cancer says, what about, just have it's such a big family. So can we just not make it a little bit smaller? I mean, Jupiter enjoys the big ones, but maybe we have lost kind of like that intimate connection, like we have got within the family. Obviously, Aquarius was connected so much to do with freedom and independence. That's all about breaking free from outdated structures. It's about liberty. It's about objectivity. It's about rational mind and detachment. So we've got these seeds here. We started implementing something new, something progressive. But Sagittarius is going to start questioning this, the full moon. It's going to question whether was it the truth or can sometimes be attached, can we be sometimes like can sometimes we be attached to the ideas and the future vision, kind of like thinking that this is good or this is progressive or maybe it's wrong. So Sagittarius is of course looking for the truth. Is it ethical? Is it the right move? Is it just? What is the real purpose behind this innovation? Like we might be losing the sight of the of the bigger picture here. Maybe we are not looking for the right truth. We are making certain type of assumptions. We are questioning this futuristic piece of item. Or it can be an item, it could be an ideology, of course. So what's the meaning of it? How is it gonna work? I mean, of course, Aquarius was about innovation. And of course, we do that because we want, let's say, more efficiency. But it looks like something went down which did not fully consider the broader human impact of it. And this gets spotlighted here right now with the Sagittarius full moon. What's the purpose of it? What's the meaning of it? How does it contribute to human wisdom? Or is it just kind of making us more comfortable? And that's the Jupiter and Mercury conjunction in the sign of Cancer, because it's convenience. Is it going to be able to help us understand the human mind, for example, or the individual or the world better? Of course, Jupiter wants freedom, and Saturn is the boundaries. And Aquarius is the advocate. So it advocates to break free and to break free. And sometimes it makes certain type of radical decisions to get the freedom back. And now with Sagittarius, it's also a freedom-seeking sign as well. But this is being squared by Saturn. So we've got these ethical questions that are popping up. Like, are we truly free? Does the freedom potentially that we want lead to certain type of chaos? What are the consequences? What are the price of freedom? So of course, we've got somehow looking at the individual needs here and the collective experiences. We've got a system in place here, and it looks like it doesn't work. That's what that Saturn Jupiter says to us. While Aquarius is more to do with a group of people, like a collective focus, Sagittarius is a fire sign, so there is still the individualism in there. So it says that if you want to grow, learning is super important. The individual is questioning that collective vision that we came up with. So it really looks like, from a political point of view, that we are not going to be agreeing with certain type of political decisions. And of course, Jupiter, which is the planet of optimism, and Sagittarius, of course, represents optimism as well. It means, Jupiter is very optimistic that this is going to be good for the human body, for example, in the sign of Cancer. Or it's going to be good, for the real estate industry. Or it's going to be good for the families. And Saturn says, girl, have a reality check. How is it going to work? Because Saturn is practical. It brings up ethical questions here. You don't think about the consequences. So basically, the full moon in Sagittarius will illuminate where our Aquarian ideas might have been too broad or lacked sufficient grounding, or it lacked practicality. So, of course, this is also because Jupiter is exalted, though, and Saturn is in fall. So it really looks like that Jupiter has got the upper hand, meaning that Jupiter can be winning here. So basically, what it says is that, let's say, certain innovations are actually particularly good, and it's going to help the society quite significantly. And some are just kind of like the fear of losing individuality. So it's somehow reluctancy. Of course, Sagittarius tries to encourage us to see, you know, that we belong together. It tries to get us to understand that these new ideas or these cross-cultural experiences, for example, are just how good it is. So, of course, in a way, what we did is the Aquarius element. So that shows what we wanted. And we wanted the freedom. And Sagittarius kind of like tells us right now why. So, of course, because that's what the moral codes dictate, or that's the ethical one here. So I think, of course, on a personal level, let's switch to that one as well a little bit. So there were things that we upgraded in our life, and now we are meant to be promoting growth. We're going to have to be able to learn about it. This is an evolutionary possibility for many of us. And you know what? We planted the seeds in the sign of Aquarius. We shouldn't be rigid about it. Sagittarius says be adaptable, discover new opportunities, go further with it, dream big. This is about finding your real truth. This is about the truth about the Aquarius part of your chart. Have faith in the future. We are going to be experiencing challenges, of course, because Saturn is square in it. But you're going to have to believe that the seeds that you planted in the part of your Aquarius, part of your chart, even though we run into hurdles, but we can actually make it happen. Now, we've got two asteroids involved. Both are connected to the sun. One of them is Demeter, the other one is Asclepius. So Demeter is astrological number is 1108. And Demeter is the Greek goddess of agriculture, harvest, fertility, represents motherhood, the natural cycle of life. So therefore it comes with death and rebirth. And of course, her daughter got abducted, right? Persephone into the underworld by Hades, which caused Demeter to withdraw her life, giving force from the earth. And then that's how winter was born, basically. So, of course, on one hand, it represents the connection between the mother and the child. It's kind of like the code, right? It's attachment, but also represents food, nutrition. It represents loss and grief, and then it shows cycles of the abundance as well. Like sometimes we're gonna grow and sometimes we're gonna go through losses. Sometimes we're gonna have a lot of something and sometimes we are going to be lacking things. But of course, she was super protective towards the child. So therefore it represents boundaries as well as kind of like having to, in a way, having to um yeah, having those boundaries because it can become very suffocating. So, and then we've got the other asteroids here, which is Asclepius. And this astrological number is 4581. And Asclepius is the Greek god of medicine and healing. He was taught the healing arts by Chiron, actually. And he had the ability to bring people back from the dead, which actually led him die. Zeus striked him down to maintain the balance of life and death, basically. So, what does Asclepius represent in the chart? Healing, medicine, healers, physicians, doctors, cures, remedies. But also, it's the restoration of life. It's basically recovery, the regeneration, and the ethical stuff in healing as well. So let's bring this together. I think what's going to be happening, that there will be truth about nurturing health matters, things that started in 2020. That Sagittarius full moon seeks the truth. And Demeter shows that it's uncomfortable truth, something that is out of balance, something that is connected to loss. So, food insecurities, like emotional nourishment, the global well being, in a way, poverty, as well as homelessness. And Asclepius it brings the light, the truth about our health system, methods of healing, and it shows where we need some remedies. It shows that something is sick, broken. Are we talking about bloody COVID? I don't know, but it's strange, right? Now, Sagittarius wants to expand. It wants the freedom. It wants the higher knowledge. And then it has got an opposition to Demeter, which is actually focusing on security matters. So it sounds like my core needs and versus the global needs are somehow not meeting. We've got this grand vision about how to feel better. It's about the restoring the faith. There's a lot of ethical considerations going on in this chart. What's ethical? Is it ethical to grow, let's say, money? It raises a lot of question about ethical food production, for example, or resource management, or the protection of the vulnerable population, or even the earth, really. And then with Asclepius, it brings forward those ethical debates about healthcare, about longevity, about cures. There are discussions about new treatments, pharmaceutical matters, or or how the medicine is stored and distributed. Food, health industry, healthcare, like, you know, all these institutions really, those seem to be a topic. Let me take it further. I think it's healthcare and food. Because this full moon squares the south node in Virgo and squares the north node in Pisces. So let's break it down. South node, we're going to start with that. Because that's something that we are familiar with. That's something to do with the past. And in order for us to grow North Node, we're going to have to, in a way, deal with past matters. And South Node in the sign of Virgo says that we used to be very data driven. We used to be very analytical. We wanted to create something perfect. It says that we are critical. We worried excessively about something. And also it represents hypochondria and anxiety. And we were focusing on the physical ailments or medical matters way too much. We wanted to control something. We came up with these strict orders or routines. Uh, we kind of created a certain type of a chaos. We potentially might have become a martyr, or we might have become kind of like, you know, like too focused on social duties, or we became very judgmental. We are criticizing others and we are very critical towards the self as well. And potentially we have got lack of faith. We are too reliant on what can be seen, something that measured, something that can be backed up by data or can be controlled. Now, North Node says in the sign of Pisces that we need to develop a better understanding. We need to be in the shoes of the weak, of the disadvantaged, of the sufferers. We need to trust our inner guide. We need to surrender. We need to let go of the need to control. Sometimes mystery is great also because it keeps us alive. We need to use our imagination. We need to trust the process of holistic healing as well. So, the full moon squares the nodes. While the full moon in Sagittarius, of course, wants to grow, to teach, to preach, to find the ultimate truth. So the South Node might show that our truth used to be in the Virgo part of our chart, which was let's be data driven, let's create something perfect. But it's not working anymore. It's a very critical approach. So the North Node is pushing us to find the truth in compassion, intuition. We need to understand that these dogmatic stuff is actually an enemy to us. So it also, feels like that this Sagittarius full moon is a catalyst somehow towards Pisces and the Virgo axis. We've got these ideas around what perfect looks like. And at the same time, it says nothing is perfect. We don't have to have all the answers all the time. We don't need to correct everything. We don't need to make everything neat or categorized. It says find your higher truth. Of course, some people call the node as karma, the axis of karma. So it can feel like, it can really reveal past habits, something that is holding you back from growth, of course. Or it can represent that, like the Virgo part is not the spiritual path anymore that you need to be following. That's not your purpose. That's more to do with the North Node, of course. And that's going to bring growth for all of us. So this is a very mystical full moon from that point of view, right? This is a kind of like an interesting full moon in a way that, it's not about telling you really concrete stuff. Obviously, we've got all these big ideas. We've got, it's about safety. I am looking forward or I'm looking for opportunities to find security. And I feel like a lot of people might try to relocate, but we're going to run into certain type of obstacles with that. Somehow we are questioning whether we are actually free. Can I speak freely or not? Because I've got all the legitimate paperwork and then I still not get access to a country, for example. However, there is one other thing that I would like to mention about this full moon, which might be also super important. This full moon creates a grand trine with Mars. As you can see, Mars is on 26 degree of Leo. Actually, you can't see. Did I stop the sharing? Or let me go back to the chart. So you see the 26 degree of Mars, and then it also um, with Chiron in the sign of Aries. So on one hand, of course, this is 6 degree away, but this is a grand trine, so I would definitely like to talk about that as well. So, so as previously discussed, full moon is culmination. It's the truth. It's about expansion. It's about wisdom. Now, Mars is in Leo, and this is about confidence, drama. gaining power, getting the attention. I'm gonna express, I'm gonna be courageous to express myself, my creativity, my sexuality. I want to be noticed. I want to be leading with heart. I'm gonna be brave to be seen, and I'm gonna base all my actions on something that I'm convicted by or I'm super passionate about. Now we've got Chiron there. And it says that we have got a wound, a core wound around bravery, about our identity. I feel like I must be first, or I'm never going to be first. Because I'm never going to be enough. Whatever I do, it's not good. Kind of like I don't have the right to exist. So when we bring these together, this is telling us that we need to heal. We need to express who we are. We shouldn't be hiding anymore. We need to learn to be confident and to be passionate. And it's going to heal self-worth issues. You can be a leader through vulnerability. Of course, this full moon, is fueled somehow with this confident Mars. So I'm gonna speak up about the truth. I'm gonna be brave to share what I believe in, what I stand for. I'm going to be expressing my philosophical insights because I'm convinced that this is the truth. And also the Chiron element there. Well, a full moon is very visionary. So I can find the vision through um, through being able to talk about, my psychological problems. I'm ready to be on a new journey. I'm ready to discover who I am. So it brings a lot of confidence, a lot of optimism, a lot of creativity. And I'm courageous to tackle my feelings. And I don't care whether I'm going to get rejected. Obviously, the Sagittarius full moon is so connected to the bigger picture. So I am ready to connect the dots. So, guys, this is my full moon interpretation. So we might want to be breaking this down briefly for the 12 signs. See you soon. So let's break down this full moon for all 12 signs. So let me just adjust the clock so that you guys are able to see where we are. So we're going to start with the Aries rising sign. So Aries, you've got the full moon happening in your ninth house, which represents beliefs, higher education, travel, philosophy, spirituality. And then it opposes your sun, Demeter and Asclepia, in your third house, which is communication, sibling, short trips, learning experiences. And then it squares the South node in your sixth house, which connects to daily routines, work, health, service. And then the two dispositors are Jupiter and Mercury, which is in your fourth house. So this full moon illuminates the need to balance your philosophical, adventurous spirit with your daily communication, as well as the way we interact with others. And there is a push here to kind of release old ways of doing that. So maybe we have been communicating in certain ways, and that's a kind of like a habit. But also there is this push here to release old work habits, like the way we communicate with coworkers, employees, bosses, and so forth. Or we're gonna have to change our mindset about medical matters. Maybe we have been too focused, for example, on traditional medicine, and then we're going to have to start healing the mind, the subconscious, kind of like understanding, because the key to resolution and growth lies in expanding your emotional understanding of how you communicate, for example, with your home and family members. So this could be a big discussion about your roots, or you can have this larger, like you can have this desire to buy a larger home or to find security through studying something, taking courses. You want to learn a little bit more about emotional patterns as well as family influences on the self. So this would be super important to kind of learn, open your horizon. This could actually indicate that you are about to be relocating as well. Now, that's highly possible, and not to mention that this could even indicate that you are changing your perspective over your families as well. And then you are ready to make peace with family members. You are ready to, because with that South Node in the sixth house, we might have controlled our feelings and emotions and thoughts. And potentially, this might be telling us that we are meant to be speaking about these. Okay. Let's move on to Taurus rising sign. Dear Taurus, the full moon is happening in your eighth house. Shared resources, intimacy, transformation, deaths, rebirth, psychological complexes. And it squares the South Node in your fifth house, which is creativity, children, speculations, self-expression. And the two dispositor, Jupiter and Mercury, are conjuncting in your third house. Siblings, short trips, communities, studying, courses, and so forth. So this full moon highlights potentially some shared like tensions between my money versus other people's money, or intimacy departments, or how much I receive and how much you give within this relationship. And potentially we want to make a change here. Now, of course, you might want to be making changes of how you make your living as well, but it looks like there is a karmic pattern that needs to be released here. Maybe you have been overly analytic when it comes to your creative endeavors, or the way you express yourself, or the way you deal with children, for example. And this time around, you're going to have to be able to communicate clearly. You're going to have to be able to let others know about your psychological wounds and financial struggles. And maybe you have given money to someone, and then you just need to tell them that I need it back. And maybe it's also about learning new skills, Jupiter and Mercury in your third house, so that we can actually make these financial changes in our life. And then if we learn new skills, then we can actually make more money. I would also say, though, that maybe it's a confidence issue that you need to be able to work through here. Because this full moon is squaring the south node in the fifth house. It is somehow telling you to unleash your creativity, have the courage, and be brave to study to make a change in your life. Okay, let's move on to Gemini rising sign. So, Gemini, you've got the full moon happening in your seventh house, house of partnership, relationship, enemies, contractual agreements. And it squares the south node in your fourth house, home, family, roots, endings, emotional foundation. And the two dispositor are conjuncting in the second house, Jupiter and Mercury. So somehow this full moon is highlighting your personal needs as well as the needs of the partner. Now, the first house is very much about your identity and the way you kind of express yourself. And maybe someone doesn't necessarily like that. Maybe it's a partner, your relationship partner, your contractual partner, and so forth. So this is telling us, let's address the issues within the relationship. Let's address the imbalances of how you give and receive these messages, like how you talk to me. But there are old patterns here that needs to be gone, and that is connected to family. So there were ways of speaking and raising you and so forth. Emotionally, we might not be at the right place, and then we're going to have to say goodbye to those. And of course, often this is about being criticized, for example. So the partner might have been criticized. I have been criticized. There were certain type of like a um, certain type of rigidity going down. So we're going to have to open up our horizons. And this all can lead to an expansion in your finances, in your values, in your confidence level as well. We're going to have to be able to communicate about it. We're going to have to give voice to these matters, and then we can find resolution for it. And therefore, the relationship is going to grow and the confidence level is going to grow as well. Cancer rising sign. So you've got the full moon happening in your sixth house, daily routines, work, health, pets, service industries, and it squares the south node in your third house, which is communication, siblings, uh, learning experiences, commuting. And the two dispositors are actually in conjunction to Jupiter and Mercury in your first house. So the full moon shines a light on your daily work, routines, health, but there are certain type of tension going on with subconscious patterns. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's the spiritual practices that we do. Obviously, one house is very practical, the other one is super spiritual. And maybe you're gonna have to start seeing how your inner world impacts your outer life. And this full moon encourages you to release old ways of communicating, over analyzing, thinking, being critical towards those siblings, or letting them criticize me as well. And of course, the two dispositors, Jupiter and Mercury, conjunct in your first house. And if we do that, it leads to personal expansion. You are going to be able to grow. You're going to be, in a way, more secure about who you are. It's giving you the opportunity to renew the sense of self. It says that your words and thoughts are actually super impactful right now. So if you have got work issues, it is also somehow telling you that let's find ways of kind of like communicating in different ways, or how we try to fix the problem. And that is going to be leading to a nice growth. Now, Leo rising sign. So you've got a full moon, brings kind of like a culmination in a project that you have been working on, or your romantic life, or your relationship with children, or even it could be, of course, it is a little bit in a clash to groups and friendships and even your future aspiration, because the sun is in your 11th house. So I've got ways of working on a creative project, but if I like the friends might not necessarily like it. Or often the problem with the fifth and 11th house is that 11th house focuses on short-term solutions, while the 11th house is focusing on long-term goals. So we can have this little tension how to do that. But we are called upon to release patterns around how we manage our finances. So on one hand, it is telling us that we need to be able to focus a little bit more potentially on how to make quickly money and then how that's going to be working out in the long run. It could indicate that you have got certain type of patterns around self-worth, confidence level. Maybe you have been super critical towards yourself. And in order for you to grow, this is going to be important that you work on your psychological complexes. The key here is that you need to be delving into your subconscious. You need to be somehow approach this from a spiritual perspective because the two dispositors, Jupiter and Mercury, are in your 12th house. You're going to have to gain a little bit more insights about something that is hidden. This is by it could be happening through intuitive downloads, and that makes your creative path and even your social connections better. Maybe there is that lack of confidence here, right? About putting yourself out there on a public stage or pursuing your creative endeavors. It looks like you've got some fears to work on, but if you work on those, this could be a great full moon for you. Maybe you keep telling yourself that I never have the money. I'm never going to be able to make it. Where is that rooted? Where does that come from? Let's work it through. Okay, Leo rising sign. So you've got the full moon happening. Sorry, not Leo. I've just discussed Leo, right? Virgo rising sign, you've got the full moon happening in your fourth house, in square to South Node in your first house, and the two dispositors are in conjunction in your 11th house. So this full moon highlights a tension between your home life, your family dynamics, your emotional security, and your career, public image, and reputation. And the full moon is about balance. So we're going to have to find the balance between our private and public life. And because it squares the South Node in the first house, maybe you are very critical or you want to be in service to both. Like, I need to be attending my duties, my work experiences. I have to be doing that at home as well. And we're going to have to be able to change our belief systems over this. We don't need to be perfect all the time. We don't need to be over analytic. We don't need to focus excessively on perfection because I need to be the perfect mom and I need to do well at work as well. The path for you is to, in a way, expanding your social network, communicating your hopes and wishes to groups, to family members, to be a little bit more adventurous. Of course, it's about work and life balance somehow for you. And obviously, the Jupiter and Mercury conjunction is super focused now on long-term aspirations. So, can we actually explain to family members, for example, that I've got these long-term aspirations and that maybe I need a bit of time for myself? I need to be maybe, focusing a little bit more on the self also. Uh, and potentially with Jupiter and Mercury, they would show understandings. Libra rising sign. So you've got the full moon happening in your third house. But it squares the South Node in your 12th house. And the Jupiter-Mercury conjunction, the two dispositors are actually in your 10th house. So this full moon brings your focus to the way you communicate. It can even bring your focus towards your relationship with siblings as well as with your local environment. But it's opposition to your worldview, to your higher education, to your travel plans. So what it kind of indicates is that, for example, one wants to travel, uh, like I'm debating whether to stay local or to travel far away. And it makes you anxious because the South Node is in the 12th house. And we need to be able to release that hidden anxiety, the self-defeating patterns, or being overly critical on your spiritual path. Imagine that you are attending a course, but you keep telling yourself that, oh, well, you know what? I'm never going to be able to do this well, or I'm never going to be too good or good enough in a way. And that is impacting your public image. That is impacting your career. This is telling you to remember that you started, for example, this course is because you want to be enhancing your career department. And then if you are able to go with the flow a little bit more, I think it's going to be actually making you very confident in your job. So it's kind of like learning new job skills. That's what it feels like. It's about having professional aspirations. Allow yourself to be having those aspirations. Allow yourself to be recognized. Scorpio rising sign. So, dear Scorpio, you've got the full moon happening in your second house, which is connected to finances, values, self-worth, and what we owe, but also things that we get attached to. And it squares the South Node in your 11th house. Friends, groups, hopes, wishes, and social causes. But the two dispositors, Mercury and Jupiter, are conjuncting your ninth house. So this full moon highlights your connection to money, values, and self-worth. And it brings attention with other people's resources and other people's transformational experiences. So, in a way, are you comparing yourself to others? Are you comparing how much money they make? Are you belittling yourself? And also, of course, it tells you that it's an exploration time about your financial blockages because it tells you that you've got all the possibilities to make it happen. But sometimes, I mean, it's about the creation of financial independence versus having to rely on others. But there is something to release here. Maybe what happened is that I allowed friends to criticize me. I allowed friends to kind of tell me what to do. Or I have been too rigid about the plans, how I'm going to be making it happen. And the Jupiter and Mercury conjunction in your ninth house says that we are able to grow if we shift our belief system, if we pursue higher educations, or if we relocate. This is about big insights. This is about don't let your friends to tell you, for example, that, you know what, this is such a big plan. Are you sure about it? You know, don't let others to doubt you. That's going to lead to an increased awareness about your own abilities. Sagittarius rising sign. So the full moon is happening in your first house, your physical body, appearance, as well as your identity. But it squares the South Node in your 10th house, which is career, public image, reputation. But the Jupiter and Mercury conjunction happens in the 8th house. So somehow this Sagittarius full moon is uh, is pretty much a powerful moment for your personal identity and how you come across to others. It is culminating or illuminating how you see yourself, how you present yourself. And the question here is, do I care how others see me? Do I care how others are kind of forming opinions about me? But of course, it highlights your relationship access as well. So my relationship with others versus others' relationship with me. And this is about building a stronger sense of identity. What you need to be potentially letting go is that the boss doesn't have to be seeing me perfect all the time. Or, yes, I'm allowed to have fun and adventure. I don't need to be working 24/7. I don't need to like create this perfect image about myself all the time, even though others might judge me, seventh house, but I don't give a shit about it. And then if we do that, then it leads to a path of growth. And you're going to be able to have a better understanding about your psychological complexes, about intimacy issues, and potentially you are going to be able to make more money as well. You are going to be able to create better financial connections or even better emotional bonds with others. Capricorn rising sign. So you've got the full moon happening in your 12th house, which is about release, the subconscious, hidden matters, isolation, spirituality, as well as bad habits. And it squares the south node in your ninth house, beliefs, higher education, philosophy, travel, foreign countries. And the Jupiter Mercury conjunction happens in your seventh house, the house of partnership. So this full moon brings your attention to certain type of subconscious patterns, the hidden aspects of yourself to your spiritual approach in life. But it comes with a bit of attention to the daily routines or work-related matters or health-related matters as well. What it feels like is that you have done certain type of self-sabotaging. And we're gonna have to have a bit more of a holistic approach to our well-being. Maybe you've had these rigid belief systems about how the body needs to be healed, but maybe it's time to listen to other people's opinions. Maybe you are a bit resistant to new experiences. Maybe you are resistant, idea that you can be doing the healing, for example, in another country. The key to moving forward is that you are going to be communicating within the partnership, within, you are going to be having more of a mind, like an open mindset, and that is going to bring you great collaborations, better personal bonds, um, growth within your partnership because we have changed our way of thinking. We have released rigidity. I'm going to be more open-minded. Good luck, Capricorn rising sign. Let's move on to Aquarius. So this full moon is going to illuminate your 11th house as well as your 5th house. Let me just change the hours here for you a little bit. Well, actually, I'm going to change the day so that you can see it right. Here you go. So it's going to be illuminating your 11th house, which is the house of friends, groups, hope, wishes. But it has got a square to the south node in your eighth house. Shared resources, intimacy, debts, rebirth, psychological complexes. But the two dispositors are in conjunction in your sixth house. So this full moon is illuminating your networking, your friends, your long-term goals. But it comes with a bit of attention when it comes to your romantic life. So your romantic life is affecting somehow your goals. Maybe it's because it's time for you to evaluate For example, what's important for you, your long-term goals or your romantic connection, and how to bring them together. Of course, you have got this aspiration going on, and it looks like with the dispositor of Jupiter and Mercury, you can actually start working with it. We're going to have to make the steps towards it. But what happens is that something to do with the intimacy or other people's money, certain type of old patterns that are connected to intimacy is blocking it. So what it feels like is that uh, potentially we've got a partnership where I would like to express myself, but maybe they are criticizing me, maybe they are blocking me out, maybe they are causing me psychological fears and anxiety, and then I'm not ready to make this big change in my life. But if we make the changes, it leads to a better working environment. It is going to be leading to better health practices. And you are going to be able to potentially generate more money because Jupiter rules, of course, your financial department. And that's the path here. That's the key here with North Node being there. It's also in a way that you don't need to be relying on other people's resources. You can actually create it yourself. Maybe it comes with certain type of delays, but trust the process. Dare to dream. I think that would be the title of the video if I wanted to say something about you. Let's move on to Pisces, right? Okay, hold on, because I clicked on the wrong one. Pisces rising sign. So this full moon is illuminating your career house, the 10th, public image, reputation, authority figures, career, and your achievements. But it squares the South Node in the 7th house, which is partnership, relationships. But we've got the Jupiter and Mercury conjunction happening in your 5th house. So this full moon brings your attention or culminating something in your career, like what I have achieved so far, what my plans are for the future, but it comes with a bit of a tension connected to your home life, family dynamics, and even your emotional foundation. So it's a time for you to balance out work and life stuff. It's about focusing a little bit on your professional aspirations. And because that gives you emotional security, most likely. But maybe somehow the South Node in the 7th house is blocking you, which tells you that you're going to have to release old patterns of over-analyzing and being criticized by others and telling you in a way what to do. What is moving forward for you is to express who you are, expanding your creativity, expressing who you are, being optimistic in your own individuality, and taking risks as well. We're going to have to be able to take risks to be able to move forward, and that's going to bring you a sense of growth, a sense of comfortability about who you are. So, good luck, everyone. This was my very short mini version of my breakdown for the 12 signs. It's going to be longer in my weekly postcasts for members. Have a lovely week, everyone. See you soon.
Every sign and every house, a journey starts, and we allow the universe so vast and true. Astro Viktor, it's here for you.